Good morning. This
Thank
is
you.
Nadeem Patel, and I welcome you for sharing your valuable time on our platform on Thoughts of Education. So we have
Thanks, Nadeem.
Sir
Thank you very much
Mr.
for inviting.
Surya Prakash, the director and founder of Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies. So, sir, I just we wanted to discuss your thoughts on education. So you have
Thank you.
held the key
Happy to.
position. Yes, sir. So you have held the key position at Education Institute throughout your professional career. What are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector?
Okay. See, I'll take you a bit ago in my career. If you have asked this question, I have not been an academician throughout my career. This is just my 6th year of academic career. But prior to that, 8 long years I have spent in the banking and financial service industry. So after completing my management course from ICFAI, which is fondly known as ICFAI in Hyderabad, I started working into BFSI. So I've served organizations like ICICI, I've served organizations like HDFC Bank. So during those 8 years of my tenure with BFSI, I've held positions like branch manager, I've held positions like regional manager with HDFC Bank was my last corporate assignment, which I should say. And then after that is when I moved to academics. That was purely because of my inclination towards academics, and the things which I learned during my corporate stint was actually motivated me to come into academics. And then 2013, I should say, this is just 7-8 years is when I have been into academics. So I started my academic journey with a university in Raipur, a private university in Chhattisgarh, wherein I was heading the placements for the university. And then I moved to Pune. I have held positions like HOD for academics in one of the B schools here. And then I've also served as visiting faculty to a lot of premium B schools of Pune. And then 4 years ago is when we co-founded this institution called as Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies. So I'm one of the co-founders. I have 2 more co-founders along with me who and we 3 started this institution in 2017. And ever since then, the entire motive of starting this institution was to actually identify the gap between the industry and academics and work accordingly so as to bridge that. So I would definitely want to add one more point. Not to forget, the point is that during my stint with corporates also, when I was on the other side of the table, when we used to interview these young graduates for jobs, there was a huge gap which we also felt, which we also saw and understood that there is a big necessity of building the blocks together and bridging this particular gap. So if you talk about opportunities, there are immense in the industry. If you talk about requirements, it's huge. If you talk about skills, that's where the thing was. That's where the challenge was. I would not say problem. That's where the challenge was. So the entire focus was on to build the necessary skills and matching it to the requirements. That's how my journey has been while holding positions. That is what the focus area has been to match to the requirement, and the entire experience came from my 8 years of stint with corporate. So we always try and match it up to the requirements. That's how we have been working over the last 4 years at Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies, and hope to continue the same in the coming future.
Your journey is really great. I mean, your experience is vast. So, being the founder and director of ISBMS, what is your philosophy of leadership, and how do you describe your leadership style?
Okay. See, the institute was founded with a clear-cut vision that we wanted to work on 2-3 basic philosophies. Number one was we decided from day one itself that we will never be into a business of counting heads, correct? So if you see this industry, the education industry today, it has taken a shape of a mass industry, rather I should say. So number of students in a batch, number of students in a classroom, that's a mass thing which has happened. So this was our first philosophy when we started this, that we will never get into the business of counting heads. So that's where we came up with the logic of taking very limited number of students so that we can handpick them train them properly by focusing on every individual student. And see, the logic comes from where I should tell you that. When these students come out of their graduation, they are very raw, and they come out with a very different mindset for that matter, because of the kind of studies that they do in graduation is very different. And when we put them into a professional studies like MBA, which is very, very demanding as compared to a regular typical undergraduation course. So they need to be focused upon. Every individual student needs a lot of focus when it comes to even basic things like behavioral skills or even soft skills, etc. They need to be focused. So that was one philosophy. That was the first philosophy that we had in mind, that we will work on limited numbers. Correct. The second was to focus more on the qualitative teaching part. So when I say this qualitative teaching part, our logic here was very simple. We wanted faculties, we wanted people who have hands-on experience with the subject to come and train our students. So rather than having having an academic qualification, because that's also important, I'll not discount that. But apart from having an academic qualification to teach a subject, we were very keen on having people who can who actually comes from a practical understanding of that particular domain. To give you an example, like if I have a subject on banking operations and I want to have someone who can teach banking operations to our students, our philosophy primarily was to have someone who has done banking in past, right? So a banker comes and teaches banking operations. That makes more sense than an academically qualified guy coming. So of course, academic qualification is a prerequisite, right? But after that, our basic requirement, our requisite, I should say, I will use this term requisite, that we wanted someone who has hands-on experience on the particular subject to teach that particular domain. This was the second philosophy that we have been working on. And third, and one of the most important again is we want to be focused on it's a student-focused institution. It's an academic-focused institution, I should say. So academic will be the core focus. Academics will be the core focus. So when I say this, I'm repeating this to tell you that when I say academics is the core focus, then that means a lot of so the pedagogy. The pedagogy has been very unique for that matter. So we wanted this to happen. So assignments, project-based. So we came up with a logic of making the course 50% assignment-based. Correct? So if I have to put it in the term of philosophy, our teaching philosophy was very simple, that classroom training is just 50% of what we impart to the students. The rest 50% has to be practical. So assignment based, live learning is what we incorporated. So these were the three basic pillars of pillars around which we have been working, and we wish to continue in the same lines and never want to deviate with this. And that has been giving us really good results also. We are happy with the so far things that we have achieved so far.
So basically, sir, you will be focusing more on the quality aspect of students as well as the faculty of your institute rather than the quantity.
Yeah, rather than the quantity. That's where I said the first and the foremost philosophy for us was to avoid counting heads in the classroom and to have very limited number of students, so that we can focus on every individual student and build every student's capacity and capability so as to match to the requirements of the industry.
So, sir, being the founder of the institute as well, how do you plan for the marketing and administration of your college?
Yeah. Okay, fine. So I'm blessed with a very good team for that matter. When I say a very good team, all three of us, the co-founders, are academicians by heart, academicians by profession also for that matter. So we individually handle responsibilities by ourselves. Like for an example, I personally handle the responsibility of corporate relations. One of my co-founder, Ms. Anuja Astewale, she handles the responsibility of academics by herself, right? And one of her third co-founders, Dr. Harshada, she's a PhD in marketing, and she handles the branding, promotions, and the marketing strategies, etc. by herself. So this is one very big advantage that we carry, is what we believe that we three, the core group, handle individual responsibilities. We are also blessed with a very good coordinator, Ms. Parita Mehta is our coordinator. So she handles the basic day-to-day administration, student relations. So this is a core team I'm talking about, apart from all the faculties and the other stuff. So this is the core team of 4 members. We individually handle responsibilities, and we have been, we've not been dependent on, whether I should say, on the entire staff for that matter. So taking individual responsibilities is one of the things. So we wanted to lead from the front. So if I have to, handle corporate relations, so I have to lead it from the front rather than having an employee who works for corporate relations. If I myself go and work on that, it makes better sense. That makes more sense, and that actually gives me more control on the function part. So if I'm handling corporate relations, I'm in much control about what is happening, how is it happening, etc. So this is how we have designed the entire structure. So leading from the front is what we have been believing. So we want to meet rather than having employees. Employees are there, of course, but they're of course there to help us and support us. But the spearheading part has to be done from our side only. So that's what we've been doing, and that's what we believe also, that we have to go and we have to start working ourselves.
So it's like you keep your involvement in each and every aspect of the top management.
Exactly. So we 3 being involved in almost in a college, rather, for that matter, these are the 3 basic things. These are the 3 pillars. So you have your admissions, marketing, then you have academics as a pillar, and then you have placements or corporate relations. So these 3 major things we ourselves get involved. Now coming back to the exact answer of your question, you said, how do you do marketing? So we primarily are more or less, as I said, I'll just go back to the earlier answer which I gave you, that we are an academically focused institution rather. So our prime promotional activities are academic focused again. Like, to give you a small example, in the last 1 year or so, we must have done not less than 25 to 30 webinars, right, wherein we invite all prospective students across the country to join for free. Okay, we don't charge anything for that. So this is one of the promotional activities that we do, but at the same time, it's very academic focused. To give you an example, like, we had one of the senior executives from Pidilite, to throw an example of the senior executives from Pidilite, who came and spoke about how can, how exactly a career in sales and marketing is. We have a lot of myths. The students have a lot of myths related to a career in sales and marketing. But when he came, he's a zonal level guy. And I am pass out. When he came and he spoke about how his career looks in sales and marketing, and we invited all the prospective students who are willing to take admissions from across the country. We did the promotion through social media. We have our Facebook page through which we promoted the particular webinar details, and we had close to 90 plus participants who came and attended. So likewise, we had one of the vice presidents of a leading investment banking firm of the world. So we had such 25 to 30 guests in the last year itself. So this pulls a lot of interested students to us to attend the webinars, and this way we have promoted. Plus social media is of course there, one of the most important platforms today to promote, correct? So these are few ways of promoting that. We have also been conducting a lot of live seminars in a lot of colleges in and around Maharashtra, but due to COVID, we were forced to move to webinars. But the same rigor was maintained, the same flavor was maintained. Rather than seminars, we moved on to webinar. But ultimately, the objective was same: to reach out to the prospective students through a knowledge base, actually. So giving away something to the students, and that's how them in.
Okay. Since you mentioned like all the founders are good academics also, they have a good academic background as well. So, and if I talk about the education system in India and in foreign countries, it's different. So, like, what can a student gain studying in your institute?
Okay. See, I'll again go back to my first answer when I said that there are two things I'll highlight. Okay. I'm not the right person to comment on the education system of India. I'll not do that also, correct? Because we are trying to do our part. There are very senior people, there are very intellectuals who are sitting and deciding on this. But then I know my bit, and we as an institution are trying to contribute our bit to the education I'll not say system, the education industry for that matter. So what are we doing? Always a gap. Exactly. See, I'll tell you, I come from industry. So when I was on the other side of the table, when I used to go to campuses for hiring people, I see a huge gap. I'll throw an example and explain that to you. So when I was a part of banking industry, let me tell you a small example. In banking, today's the private banking sector I'm talking about, every bank today, every branch today has not less than 20 products to sell. Okay, and not less than 20 products to sell. Okay, now these 20 products, ranges from the core banking products like a saving account or a current account to a very specialized product also. When I say specialized products, we're talking about financial planning, we're talking about investment banking also for that matter. These are all the specialized domains, or say foreign exchange management or treasury management. So they have not less than 20 products to do. They have not less than 20 departments to take care of, etc. But how many of it is actually being taught? How many of it is actually being taught in the syllabus? Correct. So if I have to give you a summarized thing, then I don't think not more than 2 or 3 domains of this industry is being taught in the syllabus. Then what happens to the other domains? How do students get knowledge about those domains? Correct. To give you a small example, say suppose say treasury management. Treasury is such a big domain in banking today, or foreign exchange management, or credit and risk management. Credit and risk management is such a big talked about domain today, right? But how many B schools have credit and risk management in their curriculum, right? This is what is to be taught. Or say for an example, say retail management. We've been talking about the growth of retail in marketing. Every now and then we see the growth of retail. But is retail being taught in detail? Okay. Or say we have, every now and then we are seeing, big brands coming into India. We have been talking about luxury brands coming into India. But is luxury brand management being focused about or talked about? We have such a, big sport retailer named Decathlon working in India. They need people who understand sports marketing, but are we teaching sports marketing at all? So these are the few areas where we are trying to address. So when a student comes to us, along with the regular MBA, they study these kind of domains. So there are 10 specific domains which a student study in each of the specializations, whether it is finance or marketing. So all these core domains which I said, treasury management, investment banking, or say derivatives, or say credit and risk management, credit research, mutual funds, correct? These are all niche domains. So along with the regular MBA, our students study 10 such domains related to their specialization. When it comes to marketing, you have subjects like digital marketing, retail marketing, you have luxury brand management, you have sports marketing, you have international marketing, supply chain management. These are all additional things which you need to know today. Why? What is the need for this? I'll give you in a nutshell. Gone are those days when people say I have MBA in marketing and you are a big deal. No, it's not. There are the lakhs of students who pass out every year, MBA marketing, MBA finance. I should say, I may be exaggerating things, but then if you talk about a traditional program of MBA finance or MBA marketing, what is the big deal about it? If you don't have something super specialized today, and we've been talking about this everywhere, super specialization. So I'm an MBA in marketing, fine, very good. But what in MBA marketing? Are you a specialized guy in retail? Do you understand sports? Do you understand event management? Or are you having good understanding about international marketing? Is there few domains where you can contribute? So multitasking is one thing which people ask today. So when my student of MBA marketing goes to the interview and says that I know I also have studied service marketing, so I understand how to market services. I understand digital marketing because I've studied it. I can also market your sports products if you have, right? I can also go to rural markets because I've studied rural marketing, right? You give me a foreign assignment, I've studied international marketing, I'll handle that also. So just imagine the kind of sense it makes. So I have more things to tell as a student. I have, so many things to talk about in my CV. So although it increases my responsibility as a student, because when I say I've learned so many things, I need to know so many things. But at the same time, imagine how beautiful my CV looks like now. So I have so many things to talk. So I automatically will stand out as a student, right? So these are few things which are needed, number one. Number two, once again, classroom training will not solve the purpose. So although I have said that we teach 10 subjects additionally over and above the regular curriculum, but these 10 subjects, again, if I limit the students to books, again, it's of no use. So what do? We have kept 50% of the final assessment as live projects. So once you study retail marketing in the classroom, you pass the subject only when you go to the real market and come up with a live project on retail. That will fetch you 50% marks. You have to come up with a project report, give a presentation, and then followed by a Viva. Viva again to be conducted by someone who comes from retail. So imagine how interactive, how practical this goes. So likewise, you're doing 10 live projects along with your summer internship. So your CV, when you make your final CV, you have one summer internship, you have 10 live projects, and 10 live projects on 10 different domains, 10 different organizations. You have to clear the subject, you have given 10 Vivas, and you have met 10 different industry executives. That is where you have passed, right? So this is how this program has to be run. Professional programs have to be run this way. Right? So 15 years ago when I was doing MBA, it was all practical. It was all practical. You have to do case studies, you have to do live assignments, you have to do projects. Right? So that's what is needed. So that's how you learn an MBA. So businesses cannot be learned completely in the classroom. Of course, your theory is important, but unless and until you have practiced something, unless and until you have done some practical of it, how do you actually understand? So case studies are important, live assignments are important. This is how we have been running. This is how our students actually carry an edge over others.
So, sir, what I can, give the moral is that super specialization can be the new trend in coming years.
Yes. You pick up the syllabus. Yeah. So, just to make it more clear, you go and pick up any IIM's course today, correct? So you will find specializations in fintech. Correct? You will, IIM Bangalore has a specialized course in fintech. Correct? You have courses in, strategic management. You have courses in digital marketing today. Specializations in these type of things. So fintech is what? Fintech is a domain of finance, but institutions, bigger institutions like IIMs today are talking about super specialization in these things. Strategic management always used to be a subject. It has become a specialization these days. Digital marketing used to be a domain of marketing. It has become a specialization these days. So what are we talking about is that the more super specialized you are, the better is your value. Okay? At the same time, don't restrict yourself to super specialization or one domain. You have to know multiple things. That is where I said that we teach 10 subjects, 10 different domains, so that you know majority of the things, variety of things. Then it's up to the student how do they gain expertise in one or two domains and utilize the remaining things for the betterment of them.
Okay, great, sir. And finally, I wanted to know what do you see as ISBM's greatest strength? Okay,
the greatest and the best thing that we have is our academics. The kind of curriculum that we have is, again, I should not say great things about myself, but then still, we have been, given good credits by institutions. The kind of organizations that has picked our students are very big names for that matter. They hardly, go to institutions, but they have considered us students only because of the curriculum. So the kind of subjects that we teach are very niche. The kind of curriculum that we have, the kind of pedagogy that we have, the kind of faculties who come, majority of them have industry experience. That matters the most. So the biggest strength, if you say, number one is our academics, number two is our faculties, number three is our pedagogy. When I say academics, we talk about curriculum, correct? Number two is our faculties, number three is our pedagogy, the way we teach, the live assignments, etc. that we said. Fourth, last but not the least, the biggest thing is the limited intake in a batch. The limited intake. We, as of this year, we need just 30 students in finance and 30 in marketing. That makes us more focused. These are the four, primary, USPs of Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies, I should say.
Sir, it was great having a discussion with you on your thoughts of education. So I wish you all the best for your future of your institute as well. And thanks a lot for sharing your valuable time.
Thank you, Nadeem. Thank you. At the end, I just want to tell to all aspiring students that, be more clear with your thought processes. Be very, very clear about what you want to do. Be very, very clear about what actually the things are. You have to be evaluative, correct? And at the end, I should say something that, you have to be 100% efficient these days. I'm not trying to, put a fact that there's a lot of pressure. I'm just trying to tell you that there is a lot of requirement for skilled people. The only thing is that we need to focus on skilling ourselves. And if we are 100% skilled, there is no lack of opportunities anywhere in any field for that matter. It's not only about management, but everywhere what matters is your skill. It's your skill. And if you are skilled, you have great value.
Okay, so skill-based learning should be the prime focus of the student.
Yes.
Instead of going for
that's the
generic
key
things.
today.
Okay.
That's the key today. Gone are those days of traditional learning. It's over now. So we are actually into a new era. We're actually into a new age altogether, wherein it's all about skill based. The more skill you are, the better is your value in the market, in the industry, and everywhere for that matter.
Okay. It was good to know, sir. I mean, it was good talking to you and knowing your thoughts as well. Okay, so
Thanks,
all the
Nadeem.
best, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you for this opportunity, and once again, thank you very much. You give us a platform to speak about ourselves, our institution, and our course as well. Thank you very much, Nadeem.
Okay, sir. Thank you.